Sometimes till the dream ends. I think you know, I think you know.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about cinematography and kind of the more aspects of like filmmaking and how those really kind of apply to what we're talking about and reviewing the Force Awakens. So let's go ahead and just, I guess, jump right into it. We wanted to talk mainly to start out about lighting.
So lighting is my favorite area of the whole cinematography and the whole cinematic experience. I'm always looking in movies to see how they're lighting the sets, how they're doing everything. I noticed it was pretty obvious, probably everybody did notice this, that anytime there was a good character, anytime there was a protagonist in the shot, their face was always completely lit up. And that's even true of Finn when he's leaning in real close to Maz and saying, "You don't know the first thing about me." And then he takes off and he's going to run away. Even then, his face is completely lit up. So every protagonist is in just beautiful light wherever they go, which makes you love Rey even more. And it was really obvious that whenever there was one of the First Order members, that unless it was a stormtrooper, it was just basically a walking bright white light, they are always partially in shadow. Kylo Ren is the biggest example of this, that he is constantly having half of his face shadowed up completely. There's like not any time where he doesn't have either part of his face not lit or like light here, red light here, white light on the other side. And it really just kind of, like, I love lighting because it always tells a story by itself. And so there's that. There's with the good and the bad characters.
So something real quick about that. In some of the older films, or just older now, I guess, you see a lot of lighting variations with good and evil. Take, what's his face? Anakin, when he's good, you know, when Jedis are, you know, have their hoods on, you can usually see their faces pretty bright. But once you get to the point of once Anakin turns evil, a lot of the like poster treatments and stuff that they did for him, it was like this half dark, half lit face with the like reddening eyes. And so it's kind of interesting seeing that transition of like, oh, fully lit, like represents good. And then once you approach this kind of dark side evil, you migrate to this half shadowed face. And so I think that really was evident in this film, especially just with, like you say, Kylo Ren or like Snoke. I felt like even though he was a hologram, he's kind of like in this darkly lit environment. And so yeah, I think that really illustrates the point of like good versus evil.
And I'm glad they went with it, because Kylo Ren did have enough hair that they could have gone all Spider-Man 3 and had the hair cover half his face and be all flipping it this way and that. I'm really glad they went with the lighting.
Like a Garnier Fructis commercial.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the
Herbal
dark side.
Essence, actually, I think. Anyways.
The Garnier of the dark side.
Anyways.
We should cut that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, there was definitely some good use of the lights. Abrams and their directors of cinematography, if you will, did some really cool tricks, not just with the lighting. And I want to jump ahead of this because I know we have another example of good lighting. But not just with lighting and using that to help tell the story, because good versus bad, very easy story to tell within the Star Wars universe with the lighting. There was a moment when Han Solo and Leia Organa Skywalker Solo go and embrace, and it's right before Han leaves to go on the daring mission to Death Planet, or Starkiller Base.
Death Planet.
So she comes in, they hug, and it's her face, and you can see her, and she goes, "Bring our boy home," or something to that effect. And when she does it, the camera starts to fade a little bit, and they're just brought barely out of focus. And when I watched it the second time, I'm looking at that scene going, why are they fuzzy? What's supposed to be in focus here? And I realized in that instant that they weren't actually going for putting anything in focus. It's in that moment where when you're reminiscing about something, you're kind of brought back a little bit, and you're sort of like not looking at anything. Everything comes in fuzzy. And they used that little trick with focus to really make it so that everybody is going back into their thoughts for a second without actually showing them the thoughts, without showing us the thoughts. This happier time that used to be When we have Leia going, I want him back and bring him home, and then it fades back, all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, life used to be good for these people.
I don't know. I just had a thought that's unrelated to cinematography, but I just realized too that like when Leia's having that conversation with Han, it's you can bring our son back, and he feels like there's nothing I can do. I don't have the Force. I'm a nobody. Like I'm a scavenger, no good, rotten scoundrel who like gyps people out of as much money as I can. And it's interesting to me how Leia very distinctly makes the point, like, you're his father, you can do more good than you imagine. And it was interesting, too, because we kind of get the backstory a little bit that we kind of understand that maybe Ben or Kylo at one point was more affectionate towards his mom than he was his dad. He wasn't super close with his dad, maybe. I don't know. I just kind of gathered that in listening to the conversation. But I just thought that was a really interesting point that, like, dads can make a difference too, and especially people who like are not significant, they don't have the Force, they can make a difference. And I think that even plays into, okay, well, even if Finn never again uses a lightsaber, even if he's just slightly Force sensitive, or Poe, same thing, who's to say that they're not important anymore? You know what I mean? They're still vital parts of the overall story.
That was definitely a theme in this Star Wars, that you don't have to be a Jedi in order to really make a difference.
Yeah. So anyways,
It's
that was
pretty
my
neat. So
side
that's
rant.
A little side rant back
Yeah.
into character development.
Yeah.
Okay, but along with that and kind of going back through the lighting thing, with the whole cinematography topic we're supposed to be on. So there's that moment where Kylo Ren and Han meet on the bridge. And of course that's when Han Solo yells out, Ben! And you realize, oh, wow, okay, this guy's name is Ben. Which, if anybody read the old books from like the 80s and 90s on the different Star Wars characters, you know that Ben may or may not be a real person. Which always begs the question, where are the Solo twins? Coming back on point for what we do know. We have Han Solo and Ben, also known as Kylo Ren, joining together on this bridge. And, of course, they're on a bridge. This is the bridge. Which side are you going to go on? Are we going to burn this bridge? Are you going to come back to the light? Will you cross the bridge indefinitely to the dark side? Very symbolic scene. Really cool how the lighting... There was one scene that lasted about a second and a half, and it's my favorite moment in the entire movie, where you see Han Solo walking out to meet his son on the bridge at the... point where whichever way they move, it'll be past the point of no return. And as they do that, Finn and Rey come walking in through the door. It opens up, and the light from the sun as it's being drained to Starkiller Base. Oh, very complex scene. Light comes in and shines right down on that bridge, and it basically puts them in the light. It's cinematically telling you, this is what you need to focus on, because this is the key, this is the turning point, this is the most crucial point of the whole movie that's going to set up the rest of Star Wars. And this conversation happens. And it's cool because the light's just right on there, and that's how we bring in lighting and cinematography. Now let's go back to character development. Kylo Ren starts talking to his dad, and the way he's speaking is as if he's using Snoke's words, as if Snoke and the dark side are speaking for him. And then, before we have any understanding of him coming back to his own thoughts, to his own words, he starts talking and saying these words like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. In that moment, I don't think he's actually talking to Han Solo. I think he's actually talking to himself and talking to the dark side. He's much more prone to talk to the spirit of Darth Vader.
I could see that.
Than he is to his own dad. And so when he's like, I don't know if I have the strength to do this, will you help me? He's not talking to his dad. I think he definitely was making the decision. I mean, maybe you can say he was talking to both parties, but he made the decision. He chose to cross the bridge to the dark side indefinitely, and he burned the bridge. Well, Chewie shot it.
Yeah.
Chewie shot first.
He did.
That is confirmed?
Yes. It is confirmed.
It is confirmed. Chewie shot first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add. I think that's a very poignant scene in the movie, and I think it deserves, a lot of attention as far as film study goes. But yeah, yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to add. That was really good. But yeah, I just the attention to detail in these movies, though, is, I mean, it really, that's what gets me is Abrams, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but he just does such a good job of not only paying tribute to the Star Wars series, but just really trying so hard to make a great film. And he really pulls it off, I feel like. And one of the things that I noticed as far as what we're talking about is in the special effects, when we see the TIE fighters or the X-Wings, we're seeing noticeable things like when there's the wing cam, and that's another thing that I really liked. It was like they stuck a GoPro right on the X-Wing's wing, and you like can see it move, and it's just so cool. But they do moisture contrails on the X-Wings, which show up on the edges of the wings when like it's going fast enough through moisture in the air, and that happens in real life with planes or jets. Like you get those moisture that like suddenly shows up like a little cloud on the wing edge, and I really like that. And or like where there's the shot on Jakku where you see the TIE fighters in the sun, you can see their exhaust trails, like the distortion in the atmosphere because of the exhaust coming out of it. And like it's just little details like that to me that really make the film feel more real. It makes the TIE fighters feel like a real vehicle that could actually be flown, because it uses some kind of fuel source. Like we've never really, because they're mostly in space the whole time, and you don't really get that.
I mean, the only thing I wish they did was put a GoPro on the helmet of Poe Dameron as he's flying around on, what is that planet? Maz's planet?
Yeah.
He's flying around on there. I wish they would have put the camera, instead of facing him, just put on his helmet facing out. I mean, you can Photoshop that out. I wanted to see him fly out and take out the 18 different TIE fighters while he's blasting the guys on the ground. It's amazing how good he was at that. Okay, tell me this, though. Was it unbelievable, or was it actually believable how good he was as a pilot?
I think so. I think he's not so good to the point where he's invulnerable. Like we didn't really see him take a whole lot of damage or anything. Like he's still kind of invincible as a character, but I don't feel like he is, if that makes any sense at all. Like when I think of Poe Dameron, I don't think of somebody that's untouchable like Darth Sidious, or the Emperor. I think that he's completely vulnerable. It's just he's really good at what he does. I don't know. What about you?
I'm okay accepting that. I mean, I thought he was maybe a little too good at what he did. But somebody's got to be the Red Baron.
Right.
Somebody has to be.
Yeah.
If not, there wouldn't be a Red Baron.
Exactly. Otherwise, Snoopy will come in and get him.
Does that even make logical sense?
I got it.
Without a Red Baron, there wouldn't be a Red Baron. But is the Red Baron actually that good?
I don't know. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? If a woodchuck could wood.
All the wood.
Or a woodchuck all he could if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
All the wood the woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
I haven't heard that one before. Anyways.
That's the answer. Anyway, we've solved that riddle now. Woodchucks can chuck wood, and all that they can. But what you were saying before about Abrams, he really did stay true to the Star Wars trilogy and the Star Wars, like the whole feel of Star Wars. Now, some people have told me that Abrams probably hit the nostalgia button a few too many times when he was setting up this movie, when he was involved in the writing and directing it and all that. Yeah, that might be true. But I'm okay with it because it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. Like, we've talked a lot about this, like in our own circle of friends too. And I feel like the writing was, as far as the Starkiller base or whatever, like that's totally a ripoff of the Death Star. Like, no joke.
And Death Star 2?
Right, totally. Like, no joke about it. Or even the Droid Federation ship. Like, same concept. And it's interesting how, the defense of that has been, oh, well, this is the hero's tale, and that's essentially the same formulaic thing every time. But really, I don't even like to... that was the one thing that I was really not impressed with when the movie came out. But now thinking more about it, that is the vehicle. It's a less important vehicle for a much bigger, deeper story that involves Rey and Finn and Poe and Kylo. I think for me, when I walk out of the movie theater, back in my mind, I'm being nagged a little bit about how Starkiller Base is just a ripoff. But the main thing I'm impressed with, and the main reason why I can walk out of that film and love it so much, is because of the main story being so good with those characters. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm okay with that. I don't know. I just feel like we can all just say a silent prayer of thanks that Starkiller Base was the background story as opposed to the full-on story.
Yeah.
Where the first Death Star was basically a central role. Like the discovery of the Death Star was a big deal.
Yeah, I would say even in A New Hope, you have like Luke's story and the story against the Empire, and they're kind of like on the same importance level. Whereas this one, it's kind of like this is mainly just in the background, and really we have this other story going on.
Now, there's another thing I want to bring up. It's a little off topic.
That's fine.
But it kind of goes with the directing and the style that J.J. Abrams has, where everything that you see, you're feeling it at the same time. Everything feels heavy. Like the characters are really trying hard to do whatever it is they're doing. Like even the best star pilot in the galaxy is actually still struggling and having to really focus as he's flying the TIE fighter on this little escape mission. Or even Kylo Ren's lightsaber, where it's not a perfect beam. And it's like, if he studied under Luke Skywalker, how come he doesn't have a perfect beam coming out of that lightsaber? Who taught him to make it all flamey and weird? I don't know. It was interesting.
It's a Sith thing. I'll explain later. Anyways, go ahead.
But I guess the point is like, it looks crude, it looks physical, everything looks like it's actually costing these characters to do it. And it's a huge contrast from Episode 3 when you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker when they're on the rescue mission to save the it's not the Emperor yet, Palpatine. Chancellor Palpatine.
Yes.
When they're on the rescue mission to save Chancellor Palpatine, they're basically flying out of their ships that they're just barely crash landed as though it cost them nothing, flipping through the air, or at least Anakin does, and cutting down droids like they're nothing. And it's like they didn't even pay us the service of making the battle droids actually hard to kill anymore. They were just comical relief at that point because there wasn't enough Jar Jar.
So here's a question for you. Do you think that heavy feel comes from the use of practical effects?
Part of practical effects and just the style of Abrams, that these things that the characters are doing actually costs something to do it. I mean, it's kind of like when you're playing a video game,
Right.
and you're sprinting. Most video games these days, you can't sprint indefinitely.
Right.
I mean, most video games, everything you do is really heavy. I mean,
Right.
gone are the days of Halo when you can jump in the air and it looks like it costs 0 energy. So yeah, everything about this movie is heavy. It's costing these characters to actually do it. And I really like that feel of it. Because I don't know about you, but the last time I ran a half marathon, I was tired after it. And all I was doing was running. I didn't fight anybody along the way, carry a lightsaber, or have to carry a giant blaster with me the whole way. Everything these characters are doing actually costs them something.
Right.
And I really like that.
Yeah. I think, like you said, to round it out the thought, I think I like being able to feel like something's draining when you're watching it. Because, I mean, I like going through the same feelings as the characters and feeling exhausted and feeling like I have an emotional and physical investment in what I'm doing. And so you feel that when, even at the end when Rey is struggling to fight Kylo, it's like you can feel that she's putting everything she's got into it. And by this point, you're just so physically drained and, from all that's going on and people that have died and stuff, and it's just like, this is it, kind of a thing.
I mean, a cinematic adventure really should be that you should feel physically and emotionally drained after you're done with this. That's really a sign of a good cinematic adventure. Was there anything else? Oh yeah, there was one weird thing about it though, with everything feeling heavy, very physical, costing them all the time. There were a lot of out-of-breath people.
Yes, there were.
Yes.
It's actually a joke point of a lot of critics right now.
But you know what? It's they're definitely working on it. I don't know if you saw the Resistance base, but everybody there was running around as though they're training for a marathon. So I definitely have some high hopes that they're going to fix it in Episode 8.
They're just not sitting around welding things together anymore. They're running around.
Yes, because in Episode 4, that's what everybody did. cool difference between George Lucas and J.J. Abrams is that George Lucas, in order to show motion or urgency or just stuff for the background people to do, he had them using blow torches the whole time, welding torches.
You see sparks flying everywhere.
And
like
you're,
X-Wings and
you're
stuff.
thinking, when you really start to think about it, you're just wondering, are these rebels really up for fighting? They're just cutting chunks off of their X-Wing fighters. Is there really this much welding necessary? But,
It's kind of like an industrial revolution kind of feel, like you're seeing work being done.
Of course, when I first watched it, being 5 years old, I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what you do. When you work on a car, there should be sparks.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And we
Nice.
covered that.
So what's the next thing that we wanted to talk about?
Looking through our notes, went too far. We wanted to talk about directing. So there's one more point about the directing I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
But I'm going to say that again. We're going to need to hit the highlight tag. Oh yeah, one last thing about the physical nature of the film is that we're seeing a lot of films these days come out with that really physical feel, that these things that these actors are doing actually aren't easy, or the characters rather. What the characters do is not easy. We saw that in Jack Reacher, where you have Tom Cruise. He steals a car to chase after some bad guys, and he's like driving this car through the streets, and he's looking awesome and everything doing it, but he's crashing this car into everything along the way. Like, gone are the days of Fast and Furious where their driving skills are perfect and flawless. They're not perfect and flawless anymore.
Yeah, we want our characters to be flawed now. I feel like it's really interesting how we went from James Bond, who never got shot ever. Like, I think you can count the times on your hand how many times he's been shot in film. Well, actually not including Daniel Craig, before Daniel Craig. But anyways, it was just like, you have these characters that don't have to put up with cosmetic damage or being injured or things like that. And so I think this imperfect hero that we're seeing in movies now a lot is really interesting, and kind of the mentality behind that.
It was cool, the approach Abrams used, where it's like the physical nature of like a Bourne Identity type movie, where everything is really hands-on and in your face. And then like the imperfection of it, like in Jack Reacher, and in a lot of these movies coming out now. It's really cool.
Nice.
Really nice to see.
So, are there anything else that we want to discuss?
We talk enough about the special effects. There was one scene, though, in the entire Star Wars movie, Episode 7, that I did not like nor appreciate.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got to talk about this.
Yes, because we haven't talked about it enough outside of this episode.
We waited.
And that would be not Death Planet, not anything like that, not Super Ginormous Snoke. No, all that's fine. I'm okay. I'm accepting of that. What I am not accepting of is the Hitler speech. It's just, I mean, I get it. Like, stormtroopers
Okay,
can
so
go rogue.
just real quick. So what we're talking about is we cut away to, they've made it to the rebellion, right? Our heroes have made it to the rebellion.
Yes. Our heroes, our protagonists, they've made it all the way to the resistance base.
Or the resistance, yeah.
And they're chilling, they're given the reports, they're being debriefed, they're catching their breath because they've been seriously out of breath since minute one.
And then you cut to Starkiller Base, giant killer planet, and we see, like you say, kind of this Nazi-type speech with the huge red banners hanging everywhere kind of thing, and General Hux is, like, giving this speech of, I don't know, go ahead.
And it's just like he's this dictator, even though there's another dictator over top of him. He's this dictator that's, like, rallying the troops, and he's just angry, and he's just vindictive, and all of these things meshed in one. He's slowly building up until he's like screaming and yelling, and he's raising his fist, and he's ready to just like pound on the table. He looks like Hitler. You watch those World War II documentaries, and he's straight out of that. Like, that's where he got his acting classes in, was watching World War II documentaries. And then it, of course, it turns back to the troops that he's addressing, and it's panned through them through the whole thing. There are tons of them there. First of all, he has no microphone. And it's a huge place with all these troops there just kind of listening to him. The second thing, the thing that bothers me is that, I mean, at the beginning of the film, we're led to believe that Finn is a rare type, that he is a stormtrooper with emotions, that he can actually feel things and feel for people. Not just the sense to run away, but actually feel for people and actually, cares for Rey and all that stuff. And he's supposed to be the anomaly. How do I say this? Stormtroopers, except for Finn, are supposed to be faceless, nameless, robotic, clones, or conditioned, like Jason Bourne, to not need the hype, the ooh-rah, the camaraderie, or anything like that. They wear their masks the whole time so that nobody has an identity other than Stormtrooper or FN2187.
Right, it's a sense of anonymity.
Yeah, sense of anonymity. And then all of a sudden,
anonymity.
like, we're supposed to believe that they need a pep rally?
That's a really interesting point. It's like they shouldn't need that. They should have their basic training that kind of gets them through. But I mean, even our own military now, like a lot of people are fine after they leave that initial training. But I mean, don't they need an additional pep rally there too?
And I guess my other point
Or is it part of the propaganda of the First Order? You know what I mean? Is it part of the brainwashing type of mentality to make sure that people like Finn don't happen? I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know. I've just been thinking about that.
So, I mean, unless they were filming it, recording it, and then sending it out to all the other planets and systems, I just feel like, what was the point? Everybody knew the mission. Everybody knew what was going to happen. Did we really need this self-empowering moment of General Hawks? And it's just like, if not that, what are we supposed to take away from that one scene? That they're evil? I think we get it that they're evil. I mean, other than Finn, once again, the anomaly, the exception. Stormtroopers have no problem blasting apart unarmed people and civilians, women and children.
Yeah.
Got that. We know that they're being led by a guy who freaks out and has hissy fits and cuts apart rooms with his lightsaber all over the what is it? The ship.
The ship, yeah.
The ship. And it's like the stormtroopers coming around the corner and seeing, like, it's a funny scene. Like, they come around the corner and they see all the sparks flying out, and they know that Kylo Ren is just going to town in there. They, like, stop, back up, and go away. But what that tells me is that they're used to it. They're used to things like that. I think they're pretty much used to their leaders being evil. I think we're used to the leaders of the First Order being evil. I don't think we need an additional Hitler speech to convince us.
I wonder if that's mainly Abrams' commentary on General Hux's character, because it is unnecessary for the stormtroopers, yeah. But even if they don't need it, maybe Hux needs it for himself, to prove to himself that he is this leader, because I feel like he is trying to promote himself to be something more than even what Snoke thinks of him as. I feel like he's just trying to meet these unrealistic expectations. So I wonder if that's part of the issue there, if it's a commentary on his character.
I just have a hard time with it. Maybe it's coming from episodes.
I mean, I do think that, like you say, it's not really a necessary scene, but I wonder if it's saying something bigger about him.
I mean, maybe the new enemy is the Germans instead of the British. I guess we're moving from the Revolutionary War to World Wars I and II.
I don't know.
I mean, it really could be that way. So you have the Death Stars, and you have Commander What's-His-Face, and the Emperor. And both of them are like, thank you for that information. You may fire when ready. Or, fire at will, Commander. Just bad impersonations.
Right.
And it's just so easily delivered. We don't need any additional oorah. We don't need a pep rally. It's just fire at will because this is what you're trained to do. And it kind of goes with the whole Sith idea, and I guess German or Nazi German idea, I should say, of the systematic destruction of an entire people or system. And so they did that very routinely, very, very methodically. They thought it out. I don't know. I just felt like it was the one scene that was out of place that did not have the same delivery from all the other lines.
Yeah.
And all the other scenes.
And then real quick, on a separate note, one thing that I didn't like or I thought could have used some major improvements were Captain Phasma's character. She's, like, not really a character.
Well, we don't even know who she is. All we know is she dresses up in silver because she's the one female stormtrooper, so apparently she has a sense of fashion.
And that's from Senator Palpatine's Coruscant ship, by the way. she made her armor out of his ship. You know how those ships are silvery? Yeah, so that's some little lore for you. But yeah, she just like, and then she just does what Finn and tell her to do. Like, there's no, like, oh, I secretly alerted the whole Empire of what you're doing here. It's like, okay, fine, I'm going to follow your orders. Because I truly believe that you're going to kill me, Finn.
Yeah, she was the one that kind of felt out of place.
Yeah, I feel like her character needs to be more menacing.
But
in the next
we
movies.
may see a redemption of her coming up.
I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, she was important enough to name.
Right.
Do you really think she's going to die in a trash compactor?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. But I thought that part was really funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was the nostalgia button once again, but I'm
It
okay
was,
with it.
yeah.
It's acceptable.
So to round out everything, overall, how did you like the movie?
The more times I watch it, the more I'm in love with it. I may even come around to the Hitler speech.
Maybe.
That's how I feel about it.
Very nice. I think for me, I have to, whenever I view movies, I have to approach it from both a escapist viewpoint as well as a critical viewpoint. And I think critically speaking, Abrams did some really good things with it. I think he, touched on the nostalgia button. They might have used a couple of weak story lines here or there, but overall, I think it's a great story that deserves further attention and further look, and makes you want to delve into what's really going on behind the scenes. As well as an escapist point, I'm absolutely in love with the film, and I want to watch it over and over again, and I already want to pre-order it and everything.
Oh,
so.
seriously though, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I totally feel the same way. I feel like this movie was J.J. Abrams saying, I can do Star Wars and I can do it right.
Yeah.
I can leave out the stuff that's unnecessary. Of course, nobody's perfect, as
Right,
I
right.
just ranted about, but it sets up the next 2 installments to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm so looking forward to it. So looking forward to it.
Well, thanks so much for watching, and join us next time for whatever movie we end up talking about. But make sure to leave comments below. Let us know what you think. We want to make this a regular thing. So again, thanks for joining us. I'm Josh. This is Emmett. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Have a good night. Or morning, or whatever.